When did they start?
This seizures when he was a baby. They started at 8 months old.
And then how did they progress? Because they had
initially they weren't.
Gap, didn't they?
We were having reasonable gaps. We were having about 8 months, so he was having them every 8 months. And whilst traumatic, we were coping with that, and we were beginning with lots of medication and things. When he turned 4, they just got really bad, and they were every 3 weeks for the whole of last winter.
And that's the problem. Every time he has a seizure now, it does end up in a hospital
status.
stay.
He's in what's called status, which means that he will constantly have seizures unless he gets treatment, and we have to take him to hospital. So he's always in hospital for at least 2 or 3 days.
And treatment options, you have gone through many different types of medication, trying to find the one thing that seems to work. And at the moment, nothing's
worked. He's been on a lot of anti-epileptics, and I've always said, you know, it doesn't come easy to any mother to give their child drugs. You know, that none of these have got clinical trials. They're all on anecdotal evidence. I'm happy to be advised, and I will give my child drugs if he's seizure-free, but he's never been seizure-free other than a few months here and there. But I think that's just a genetic disorder. I don't think that the drugs have ever really worked, and he's getting really nasty side effects.
This treatment, which on the outside sounds controversial, I mean, you're under a neurologist at Great Ormond Street Hospital,
and Birmingham Children's Hospital.
They won't discuss it because it's illegal in this country.
Medical cannabis is illegal. CBD oil is not, but medical cannabis is what's got THC in, which is what is they call it psychoactive. It's what makes you feel high. So that's illegal in this country. I think it's quite controversial. I do think those laws need to be looked at, because obviously morphine is a hallucinogen, and they give children that all the time. So, you know, but that's why it's illegal, yes. And we have tried to discuss, and I don't have a problem with the doctors because they are bound by protocol. You know, they're doing their jobs. But I feel that the conversation should be had at this point where we are at the end of the line.
Well, we've listened to the impact this is having on his life, on your life as a family. So it must be incredibly frustrating when you do your own research and you look online, and in Amsterdam or in America, where children, adults are using this, it is making a big difference.
Yeah, it is.
And a huge difference. I mean, it's making a difference to the point where it's either having a huge reduction or a total, complete reduction.
I mean, that's the thing. I'm not silly. I know that some people try CBD or medical cannabis and they become worse. You know, like all drugs, some people are affected well, some people are not. You know, my child may try this and it may not work, but I have made contact with a lot of people in America and in Canada and in Ireland where people are using these drugs with support, which I think is really important, and they are getting results, like you say, to either reduce the seizures a lot or completely seizure-free, which would be unimaginable, actually.
Can you go to Ireland? Can you go to...
Yes, I mean, we could go to the US. It's very expensive, and you can't bring the oil back with you from America. So if you find an oil that works, you can't bring it back with you. We could go to somewhere like Holland, and we could source a neurologist, and we could source a pharmacist very easily in Holland, but my son is too ill to go anywhere. I mean, we've brought him to London and he's had a seizure, and that's the thing. We're planning minute to minute. At the moment, we can't plan in future.
Can you buy it online?
You can buy CBD oil online. You can buy things like Charlotte's Web or Haley's Hope, which are regulated in America, and they are used well for some children. And yes, so I could buy it. It's very expensive, but I could buy it.
How much is it?
For a 100ml bottle, £300.
But you don't want to do that because you want someone,
I feel that I want support because obviously my son's very ill, and if I give him anti-epileptics, they go through the liver, which is where CBD oil goes through, and the receptors in the liver, you know, the same receptors are used. If you're not careful, those drugs can become toxic in the body because it makes the drugs even stronger.
I completely sympathise with where you're coming from. We've had a really long chat about this. But at the same time, I don't want to give people false hope. And we need to put it into perspective as well for everybody that's watching. So we are talking about a very specific type of epilepsy or types. They're very severe, the genetic ones, they're intractable seizures, so they're really, really hard to treat. Sometimes they're not possible to treat, and about a third of adults and children will have this type of epilepsy, and Alfie's got a very specific type. There is some research going into the ingredients that are in cannabis, particularly something called CBD, and there is some research and some studies that show it could have potential therapeutic effect, but they are initial studies, as we know. There is a signal there, But what we need now is rigorous, high-quality studies, because we need to know, well, what dose should we use? Is it safe? How long should you burn it for?
Can't you
What
tap into the
interaction
studies
does it
that have been done in Amsterdam and in America?
But that's the thing, they're only preliminary studies. There's not any what we call randomised controlled studies, which is what we really need if we're going to recommend something.
You said that this is in contravention of his human rights.
Well, it is. I mean, I was talking to my sister yesterday, and what he goes through, you wouldn't allow an animal to go through what he goes through. We have to hold him down, we have to put needles into him, he is screaming. He's not disabled in the fact that he doesn't know what's going on. He knows what's going on. He's very bright, he's very clever. And me and his dad have to hold him. It's not right that it is allowed to happen.
No.
So there must be, surely, Ranj. I mean, this is it for years then for
Well,
them,
no,
is
this is an area that is actively being looked at. It really is being looked at, and I'm glad it's being looked at, because we can't just dismiss things at face value just because of history and things like that. But we have to be really, really careful and make sure we are doing the right thing for the right people and we are doing it carefully and safely.
Yeah.
When we talk about
Tough
sourcing
choice.
your own CBD oil and things like that, just be really careful, because you don't know what you're getting.
Yeah.
But we are desperate. We are desperate to make our son well and give him a life that he deserves. And I have a daughter who's 2.5. She's impacted by it. You know, I can't take her to playgroups. I can't take her anywhere because I'm looking after my son all the time, and it's not right.
Thanks for watching. Click here for more This Morning videos.